Hello, my construction masters. In this video, we're going to have a look at how to create a cash flow forecast. We'll start with the basics and then understand the S-curve a little bit better. I really do think it's important to understand the S-curve, even though it sounds really simple. And I say this because it is a foundation piece in accounting and construction. And once you fully understand how cash moves through a project and the profiles it can create, it can make everything else easier to understand. I call S-curves a fundamental construction principle. And this is first principles thinking, which is what I always advocate. So I hope you guys enjoy. And please note that it's really simple to create your own forecast. And once you know how, it will become one of the most important pieces of insight into your construction company or construction project. And this will increase your value on your project team or in your company. And the more value that you bring to your job, the more you'll be paid. The aim is always a minimum 6-figure salary. But first, before we dive into creating a cash flow and S-curves, let us start with why. Why is a cash flow forecast important? Cash flow planning is essential. You need cash in your bank to pay your bills and subcontractors. And staying on top of your cash flow will help you see if you're going to run out of money and when, so you can prepare ahead of time. Perhaps it will show you that the need to cut overheads, value engineer, negotiate better rates with your subcontractors. If your project is long enough, you could even hedge materials, such as steel, if the price is currently good enough. And you may be asking yourself, what does hedging even mean? And in simple terms, hedging is an investment practice that can offer protection on riskier trades and situations. So going back to the steel example, a construction company may be in the market to acquire a certain amount of steel. The company can create a hedge contract that promises the price of steel for a set amount of time. If the market value of steel changes, for example, if it increases, the company will still pay the contractual price for the same material. And you can see that this could be great. If some construction companies or construction projects did this before the COVID pandemic, they would be laughing. They would have saved a lot of money, as the price of steel has gone up a lot recently. And steel is just one example. You could also have done this with timber or other materials that you may think will rise in the future. And you therefore won't have to worry about market conditions. It's a really good idea. So on the flip side, you might be doing something well and you're considering expanding into new markets and looking at new construction projects to win, investing in new products or technologies, or recruiting new staff. Having accurate cash flow projections will help you see if you can afford to take that plunge. Okay, so now back to the real deal of cash flow forecasting and S-curves. So starting with the basics, you need to have the construction program and contract. And the contract could either be the main contractor appointed or even the subcontractor appointed. Also, the current design status of a project will dictate the level of accuracy of the program. At the early stages of a project, it may be no more than a date where you wish the project to be completed by, but by the time the contractor is appointed, the program should be developed to quite an advanced stage. And just to note, the usefulness and accuracy of any cash flow forecast relies on the quality of the information fed into it. Rubbish in, rubbish out. Even at an early design stage, it may be worth asking for contractor input to the program. There may be separate enabling works and main works contracts, and these may even overlap in some scenarios. If any of the separate contracts are of substantial value, then it is worth producing separate cash flows and merging the data to produce an overall development cash flow. That would produce the most accuracy. This is something I did for one of my projects, and it worked much better. Excellent. I mentioned the term S-curves. Let's have a look at what an S-curve in construction is. And the construction S-curve is a graphical report which displays the cumulative progress of a project and is a tool which construction companies use to track a specific metric over time. The reason it's called an S-curve is because the shape of the graph typically forms a loose, shallow S. The shape, however, depends on the type of project, so other formations are possible. An S-curve in construction is typically used to track the progress of cash in a project and to make sure that the project is tracking according to what was planned so that it finishes on time and on budget. In today's fast-paced business climate, ensuring that a construction project is on schedule and on budget is paramount and critical to its success. So you're going to ask, why an S? And the reason for an S-curve being called an S-curve It's because the shape or line of the graph is typically resembles an S shape when plotted. This is because projects are slow to start. The wheels are just beginning to turn, team members are just starting to engage in the first phase of the construction project, which can be slow before more and more trades start working and more cost is expended. As more progress is made, the growth accelerates rapidly, creating that upward slope that forms the middle part of the S. This point of the maximum growth is called the point of inflection. And during this period, construction ramps up with all types of activity, and many of the major costs are incurred. After the point of inflection, the growth begins to plateau, forming the upper part of the S known as the upper asymptote, and the mature phase of the construction project. And this is because the project is mostly finished at this point and is winding down as companies are tying up loose ends and closing things like defects out. Typically, only tasks such as finishing touches and final approvals are left at this point. So, in summary, it is an S shape because projects are slow to start, ramps up with all types of activity during the middle part of the project, and slows towards the end as companies are tying up loose ends and closing things like defects out. And how is an S-curve used in construction, you may be asking? So, construction S-curves can be used for a multitude of things, as they are essentially just tracking progress. Some of the main use cases for construction S-curves include, number 1, understanding cash flow. Number 2, making cash flow forecasts. Number 3, evaluating performance. And by that, I mean actual costs against budgeted costs, project progress against the planned schedule, and costs against progress as a measure of productivity. And construction companies could even use S-curves to plot activities to better understand resource allocation. Amazing. That wraps up this video. And as always, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to DM me or email me at hilan@construction-mastery. I'm always happy to help. Speak to you soon. Bye.